Hello, thank you for watching this Prism Connect training video. My name is Shannon and I will be guiding you through this training session. This is training session number 3, within which we will cover the Employee Tasks module. We'll talk about the Events tab within the Patient Management Suite, as well as the Form Letters tab and the Insurance tab. At the conclusion, we will also cover the Marketing Exports module. Let's get started. As you can see, I'm on the main window within the Prism Connect application. On main, there's a grouping called main, and the second item in the list is called Employee Tasks. I'm going to click on that link. That takes me to a window called Employee Tasks. This is the area within the application where you will see your to-do list. That is, these are the events or the tasks that I need to complete. By default, you can see that my name is selected, and the events or the tasks that are showing are all of those that are assigned to me or to the role in which I am assigned. Now, I am within this database. I am assigned to the role of the PCC. I'm also assigned the role of the inventory manager. So some of the tasks or the items that appear in my list of to-dos are those assigned to the PCC role or to the inventory manager role. The main listing here are all of the events or tasks that I need to complete. When I click on one of these tasks, you will notice that on the right hand side, detail relating to that item appears on the right. In this case, we can see that this is an appointment confirmation that is required for our patient George McKinney. Within the details, you can see a phone number for the patient. You can see which clinician the appointment is assigned to and the clinic at which it's scheduled, the type of appointment that is scheduled, the date and the time, as well as, in some cases, some text that can serve as sort of a narrative if you decide to make phone calls to your patients for those confirmations. Some people may elect to do postcards, and maybe they're doing those ahead of, maybe several days in advance, or sending out letters several days in advance. In that case, obviously, you've got some documentation that would serve as the notification, but this callback text is provided for some appointment types, just as a little narrative that could be read off when calling the patient. Now, to complete some of these tasks, you'll notice that there is a checkbox for the appointment confirmation that can serve as a way to record the fact that this appointment has been confirmed. So to complete this task, I can just simply click on this checkbox. The current date and time is populated automatically. I have a space where I can input any reasons or notes for the appointment, and I can modify text or add text here if there wasn't any. And this information will be recorded within the appointment record out on the schedule. So from here, I can click the Submit Update button, and that appointment is denoted as confirmed and drops off my list of open tasks. The next item in the list can be selected, in which case this is a reminder to contact the patient to schedule a fitting appointment, because we have received an order for that patient. So in this case, it is showing when the appointment or when the event was scheduled, including a time, which may or may not be important. To complete this event, you'll notice I have some radio buttons available. I can denote it as completed. Maybe I've made an attempt to contact the patient, but I was unsuccessful in reaching them, and so perhaps I want to reschedule that for 1 week out. In this case, more than likely, I'm just going to leave a message for the patient and remind them to come in to pick up their order. And so I'm going to flag this order as completed. Looks like the text dropped in here automatically for me as the event postponer is scheduled. In this case, I want it completed, and I'm just going to modify this text to denote that patient called, and perhaps I left a message and left a message letting them know that the order has been received, so they can call back and schedule the fitting appointment. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Save button to save that event. The next event in the list is automatically selected. This one is assigned to the role of Inventory Manager. This is a reminder to send back some hearing aids. We have a couple aids here in our list that are that need to be sent back to the manufacturer by a certain date, or we will end up having to keep them and to sell them. So the system will create some of these events for us. Examples include appointment confirmations. This is another event that's created automatically for us, and the people who are serving as inventory managers would receive these reminders to send back hearing aids that we have in stock. We will also get reminders to follow up with patients when they have been tested and they decide not to purchase any hearing aids. So the system will automatically create a reminder to contact the patient for test no sale situation. We will also receive reminders in here for recurring events, such as those where a patient is on a recurring schedule to come in and have wax removed. You can see in this case that our patient John Jones was scheduled for wax removal on or around the 2nd. This is when the reminder would appear on July 2nd. So maybe I reach out to that patient and remind them to come in. I do not successfully reach them, so maybe rather than denoting it as completed, maybe I want to follow up with this patient again in maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks out, maybe a month out. I'll give the patient time to reach out and contact us. But if we don't end up reaching them, we want to follow up with that patient again automatically. So postpone or reschedule is a way by which we can automatically reschedule this reminder to contact the patient for a 6-month wax removal. Okay, so you have several options here for managing your recurring events as well, and those are some of the types of events that show up in our employee tasks. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and save this as a 1-month reminder or reschedule. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. That item drops off the list. So you can see throughout here that we just have a variety of different events or tasks that will show up in my to-do list. At the very top, we have some options for filtering the task list. As you can see, again, my name is selected by default. I can narrow this down to a certain clinic. So if I was primarily working in just one clinic, then I would just be limited to the tasks relating to the Plymouth clinic. Or again, you can deselect a clinic, and then you'd see all of the tasks assigned to you specifically or to those of your role in which you're serving. Relating to the PCC role as patient care coordinator, they would receive reminders for appointment confirmations, fitting appointment reminders. As you can see in this case, this is assigned to the role of PCC. So the role is assigned to users, people who are working at certain clinics. Now, for the PCC role, that can be assigned to when you assign a user to the PCC role, you can associate them with one or several clinics. So in my case, I'm seeing tasks relating to more than just one clinic. As you can see, I've got reminders for tasks that are assigned to Plymouth Clinic as well as to the Fairmont Clinic, and that's because I am assigned to a role of multiple clinics. I can select different employees. So if I wanted to see a list of tasks assigned to another employee or user, I can select another user. In this case, Lawrence Hagen is a clinician. Also showing other types of events that would show up in the task list, especially for clinicians, are scenarios in which appointments need closure. So here's an example of a user or a patient who's been in for an appointment, and that appointment needs to be closed. You notice that when I clicked on that appointment needs closure, I'm actually taken to the appointment outcomes screen, the appointment outcomes window. And from here, so this is just a real quick way to get to the appointment outcomes, and then from here I can go through and select the corresponding information relating to that appointment. So in this case, I'll just say that the appointment was completed. It was not a hearing aid sales opportunity. I'll just say that, maybe this was a hearing aid was adjusted due to patient feedback. Okay, so I'm just adding some notes to the appointment, and I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And then when that submit is done, the submit of the appointment outcome is done, but you notice that I'm getting a little prompt here that says that this patient is on a recall schedule for an annual hearing test. Now currently the patient is scheduled for that hearing test. The next hearing test would be around May 6th of 2014. What this when I'm closing out the appointment outcome, what I'm getting is this prompt to potentially push this appointment out, or this reminder for the annual hearing test, out to July 9th. Now in this case, I was not completing an appointment that was an annual hearing test, so I do not want to reschedule. I still want to see this patient approximately 1 year from the last examination, which may have been around May 6th. So I'm going to leave that alone. I do not want to reschedule. If I wanted to reschedule this appointment, I could just go ahead and click that checkbox, and then that would be pushed out from May 6th to July 9th. So I'm just going to go ahead and click OK to that message. The appointment has been submitted, and then I'm going to close the window, and that's going to bring me right back to the employee tasks. So for those events or appointments that need to be closed, notice that when I click on that appointment needs closure, I'm taken to the appointment outcome screen. And that's a quick way for the clinicians to make sure that all of their appointments have been closed. And you can see that for Lawrence Hagen here, we've got a lot of appointments that have not been closed, going back, way back to 2012. And until those appointments are closed, they will continue to show up in Lawrence's to-do list or task list. Notice that this appointment confirmation is needed for Tom Jones. We were also seeing that under my to-do list. And so anyone can complete these appointment confirmations, as well as other tasks that may be assigned to the PCC. So some of the tasks that are showing up, when they are assigned to the PCC, any PCC can complete the task. And for appointment confirmations, anybody, including the clinician, will see those reminders, and even the clinician could denote that that appointment has been confirmed, and then go ahead and click that appointment confirmation and submit it, and that will drop off the task list. So whether it be Lawrence that was completing the task, or whether it was me that was completing it, you'll notice now if I return back to my to-do list, that reminder for Tom Jones has dropped off the list. There is still another one here for our patient Glenn Hagen, and so if I reach out to Glenn Hagen and contact him, leave a message or contact him directly, and go ahead and denote that appointment as confirmed. And maybe that I'll just add a note that Glenn said his spouse would be coming with him for the appointment. So any notes that you want to add to the appointment can be added here as well. You notice also that we have a button that allows you to get to the schedule, and so if we click on that button, it takes us to the schedule where we are presented with the schedule for whichever day that appointment corresponds to. And then I can go back to the employee tasks here and see my pending list of to-do items. So again, if I want to complete that task, I can just go ahead and hit the submit notes, submit updates button, and that item will drop off my list. Okay. Now some of these events, like this wax removal, 3-month wax removal for Ann Lee, that is a scheduled a recurring event. And if we were to go into the Ann Lee patient record, or actually we'll go into a different patient record here, but let me show you where some of these events stem from. So I'm going to close the employee task window, and I'm going to go into the patient management suite. And I'm going to bring up another patient, patient by the name of Abbott. Oops. Okay, before we leave the employee tasks, I want to explain one of the buttons that's available here, and that is just simply to print out a list of your tasks. So if I click the print task button, that just gives me a printable version of the same tasks that I'm seeing in my to-do list. You'll notice that it does include patient names and phone numbers, so if you need to call for fitting appointments or appointment confirmations, we do provide phone numbers on there. So if you prefer to, kind of have a paper checklist of the tasks, this can be printed out and is available for you to use as an alternative to the electronic version here. You would still obviously need to come in here and to complete the task, as you have them completed. But the print task is available for the paper copy if you so choose. So some of these items, like the 3-month wax removal here, is a reminder for us to contact the patient to schedule an appointment for wax removal, of course. And this is defined as a scheduled event. So I'm going to leave the employee tasks window now, and let's go into the patient management suite. And I'm going to bring up a patient by the name of Anita Abbott. And where some of these events that we see on our employee task list, where they stem from, is on the Events tab within the Patient Management Suite. So I'm going to go into the Events tab. And on here, we've got a few different sections. By default, we're looking at patient events, and that means we're looking at the events that apply to the patient, in this case, Anita Abbott. We have two different listings of events. We have scheduled events, where we have basically these are scheduled actions that need to be where we will need to follow up with a patient or contact the patient sometime down the road. And we have a section here called completed events, and that would include appointment outcomes. It would include any one-off contacts, maybe for the fitting appointments, any sort of correspondence. So the Events tab can essentially serve as a listing of events that need to happen in the future, as well as completed events. And you can kind of think of as the completed events as sort of your chart notes. It can be a complete history of correspondence that you've had with the patient. Maybe emails that you send out, or birthday cards, or periodic newsletters. those sorts of events can be logged in here and be captured in the completed events, as well as the reminders to contact the patient sometime down the road, and those being the scheduled events. So when you select an event on the task list, or on the between these two sections, you'll see more information relating to that event. In this case, I've selected this phone out type event, which looking at the event reasons, this is a reminder to contact the patient sometime after the fitting, and to just see how things are going with their hearing aids. We also have an event that's an annual hearing test, and that stems from the fact that this patient has a recall schedule, being an annual hearing test. So on the events tab, we have this reminder that on July 9th of 2014, we need to contact the patient to schedule them for an annual hearing test. Okay, and that's what that event is all about. So this event, this one out in 2014, would show up on our employee task list as this type of event draws near. So out in the administration area, for each type of event, you can define the number of days ahead of the scheduled event when you want it to appear in your task list. So it might be 3 days out, might be the day of. In this case, where we are contacting the patient for an annual hearing test, that could pop up, the same day that it's due, and that just would serve as a reminder to contact the patient for that annual hearing test. When we look at some of the completed events, you'll notice that in this case here, we had this stems from the appointment in which we fit the patient for the hearing aids. We also have one here where we contact the patient to schedule the fitting appointment, and because an order had been received, as well as some of the appointment notes stemming from our hearing examination. So in this case, it includes our SOAP notes, which includes the situation history, each of the different sections that make up the SOAP notes. So this kind of, in a sense, can make up and be your chart notes. And so on the events tab, you can complete events. So in this case, we have a scheduled event that's due on July 16. This might be a little bit ahead of time because we just met with the patient today. As of July 9th, we just met with them, and that's the date of this recording. So we could complete it simply by editing the event and then toggling it from a scheduled event to a completed event. As soon as we do so, you notice that the date drops in, as well as the user that completed it. You can add any notes that you would like to the completed event notes, so any notes that we want here. And then if I go ahead and click OK, that event is going to drop off from the scheduled event down into the completed event. So now we have that scheduled event has been moved down, and includes the notes, and it's just a kind of a way to get anything scheduled out here down into the completed. So you can also create a new event here. So if I go ahead and click the new button, I can create an event that is either going to be a future scheduled event, or I can just capture the fact that maybe it's a completed one, where maybe I sent out an email, and maybe that in this case it's not scheduled, this would be a completed one. So maybe an email was sent, and so maybe I would just want to describe what that email said. Email sent explaining, providing more information about their hearing aids. Okay, so that's that's an example of an event that I just want to record and keep in the patient file or chart notes, just this record of an event or of an email that was sent. Maybe I want to copy and paste that, body of that email right here into this window. Additionally, you could also capture the fact that maybe the patient called in, and so you want to record that a phone call was made into the office. And again, I'll flag this as a completed event, and as soon as I do so, then the date drops in. A patient called asking some questions about their hearing aids, about her hearing aids. Okay, so again, this is becomes the history of any correspondence that you've had with the patient, including appointment history, and as well as any scheduled appointments or scheduled events. So again, if I wanted to create another new one, just as one more example, maybe I want to do a scheduled event and again follow up with the patient, maybe sometime out in the future. We'll say maybe at the end of the month, we'll follow up with that patient and follow up with patient to see how they are doing. Okay, several examples now. So this type of event will show up in my task list on or around July 31st, depending upon the how far out in advance I want this phone out type of appointment to appear in my task list. For your the events that are showing up out here, you can print a single event. So let's say I wanted to print out the details relating to the original appointment that this patient had. I can print out that event. It would include SOAP note history, any narrative that we have within the event itself. Also, if I wanted to have a print out of all events, all completed events, I can go ahead and click that button, and it takes me to a screen where I just have a complete history of any correspondence that I've had with that patient, including again any appointment outcome information, and as well as any phone calls or whatnot that I've input. Okay, so that's your ability to print out. If you created an event and wanted to delete it, either a scheduled one or a completed one, you can also select an event and then go ahead and delete it. So if I want to delete this event, I can just go ahead and acknowledge that prompt and say yep, that I do want to delete it, and so now that event is off the list. So the next reminder I would get for this patient as it stands would not happen until July 9th of 2014. But that's more about the events. Oh, one more thing here. We have a little radio button, so by default I'm looking at the events for Anita Abbott. If I toggle this radio button over and look at employee events, what that is it provides a way for me to look at all of the events that are assigned to me or to my role. And when I'm looking at the employee events, these would be all scheduled events or future events that are assigned to me or to my role. You notice that when I toggled over to the employee events, I'm getting this little message because the first event in my task list is selected by default, and the first event in here does not pertain to Anita Abbott, but instead it pertains to Dale Thompson. So this little informational message is just reminding me that I have switched patient records. So now you notice at the very top that the patient record I'm sort of dealing with is Dale Thompson. If I go to the Patients tab, I will have the information for Dale Thompson. If I go back to the events and again toggle, so every time I go to events, it's always going to be looking at the events for that specific patient. If I toggle over to employee events, the first one appearing in my employee events or assigned specifically to me is Dale Thompson. If I click the next event in my list, you notice now that I'm getting the message, hey, I've switched to Jeff Black. Now notice that Jeff Black is the current patient record. So if I go to the Patients tab, I'm going to see Jeff Black's information. If I navigate to any of the other tabs within the Patient Management Suite, they're all going to pertain to Jeff Black. So just be advised that when you're looking at your all of the events that are assigned to you or to your role, and you're looking at those, assigned in this case to me, when I'm looking, as I'm toggling through or kind of cycling through my listing here, I may be changing patient records. So now I'm looking at Peter Redlick. Now I'm looking at Jan Stevens. So, as I advance through, this list, I'm going to be changing, patient records and all of the underlying information that would pertain to it. Again, similar to what we saw in the employee tasks, I can look at the tasks of another user. So if I want to look at all of the events assigned to Lawrence Hagen, I can go ahead and do so. I can filter this list down to just those of a certain clinic. Excuse me for that. But now I'm looking at all of the tasks that correspond to the clinic of Plymouth. So employee events kind of gives me an opportunity to view all of the tasks that are assigned to a user or to a role or to a certain clinic. So that's kind of the difference here between the employee events radio button and patient events. So if I toggle back to patient events, now I'm looking at the patient events for our patient Tom Smothers. So to get to the events of another patient, I would need to go back out to the patients tab and bring up another patient via the search dialog. Okay, so that's the events tab. The next tab that we're going to talk about is the form letters tab. And let me actually bring this up for, again, another patient. Let's go back to it, Anita Abbott. So I'm going to go back to the patients tab and search for, oh, there's Anita. She's right there still. So I'm going to select her. And let's go to the form letters tab again here for Anita Abbott. So you notice at the very top, my patient name is Anita Abbott. We've got her address appearing here. The doctor or physician associated with Anita Abbott is Jim Gordon, and so his name and address information appears here. In the upper left-hand corner, we have a listing of all the physicians that have been defined within the system. So essentially what form letters allows us to do is to generate very quickly a letter that's based on a predefined templates, and more often than not, you might be generating a physician letter, and that's kind of what this is sort of designed around. And so that's why we're giving you a listing of different physicians. The physician associated with the selected patient will be selected by default. We have a section here for audiograms, so if we wanted to include the audiogram test scores, we could capture that information within the letter. We can base it on an appointment that the patient has had. And so what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to select from our drop-down list of predefined letter templates. So let's say we want to do a physician letter, and we've got an example of a physician letter here available. So I'm going to go ahead and select the physician letter. It's in this case, it's asking me to select an appointment and a physician. So I'm going to make sure that I've got an appointment selected. So I'm going to do one based on the appointment that this patient had on June 28th. Okay, and so I've got my appointment selected. I've got a physician selected. I'm going to go ahead and reselect the physician letter. And so the hearing test information that was recorded on June 28th is going to be incorporated into this letter. That's what this message is telling me. And so what we have now is in this main, this big text field is kind of the body of the letter that we would generate for this physician. Okay. We're getting a little glimpse of the SOAP note information that we recorded during that appointment outcome. And so we have case history results, right ear results, left ear, etc., etc. And you notice now that on the left-hand side, a series of buttons have become enabled and are available. And so the idea here is that as we're reviewing the letter, perhaps we notice an error in recording the history or problem or any of the information for each of the categories that would make up our SOAP notes. So these buttons are available as a way to edit the case history or the right ear results, left ear results, or the different information. So if I notice, that there was an error here for the case history, I can click on the history and problem button. That takes me to a window where I can reselect or alter the selections that correspond to this patient's history. So let's say that they didn't really tell me that, or maybe they're not having problems with the television, large social functions. Maybe I made a mistake in originally recording the outcomes for that patient. So I'm going to go ahead and I deselected one. Maybe they're having some difficulty with friends and voices, just whatever the case may be. So I'm going to just kind of make changes to my history and problem, and then go ahead and click the close button once I've done that. What that'll do is that it'll alter my case history, or the different within the corresponding sections of the SOAP note information. Being able to go in and change the results or the descriptions that correspond to that patient are easily made by clicking on these buttons. And so you don't have to type out long narratives if you don't want to. You can access these buttons or use these buttons to access the predefined descriptions that would correspond. You do have the ability to add any notes. So let's say for our patient, or in this case the physician, thank you for referring Anita to our clinics. Maybe I just want to add that sentence to begin this letter, and then begin with some predefined text that we constructed in in our template. So what we have here is basically the ability to define the body of the letter. Once you have your letter written and to your liking, then what you can do is click this button to print and save the letter. Clicking that button will give us a preview of our completed letter, and in there you'll notice it includes a logo corresponding to my clinic. It includes the clinic name and address. It has a heading corresponding to the patient that was seen, the physician name and address, patient name and address, and then the body of that letter that we had constructed, including any variations that I made. So in this case, you'd see that little example in which I mentioned, thank you for referring Anita to the clinic. And so in this case, we've got a couple. This extended to a second page, includes a line for the physician or for the clinician's signature, and the letter will also include the audiogram that was recorded for the patient. So a lot of information can quickly and easily be passed to physicians that are making referrals to your offices. As soon as you print out, and so we're in a little preview mode, we're previewing the letter that could be generated. So I'm going to go ahead and click the print button, and I'm going to send this to my PDF printer, and that's going to give me one more little prompt here to specify a file. So as soon as I send that that message or that letter to the printer, then what happens is a record of that being printed is saved down in the lower left hand corner. So when I return back to the main Form Letters tab, there's a record of a letter being printed on July 9th of 2013. So if I left the patient or the Form Letters tab and later wanted to come back in and review the Anita Abbott record, and I wanted to reproduce the letter that was previously generated, what I can do is just simply select that previously generated letter, click the reprint button, and I have the exact same letter that was produced at that time. So if you can reproduce that letter this way, or just take a look at what the message was. What did that letter look like? So the exact copy of the letter is saved at the time when you actually print that letter. Okay. There are several different templates available here in this example, in this system. When you start using Prism Connect, I think the first 3 or 4 or 5 of these templates are available. You can create your own templates or modify any of the templates by accessing the template here by clicking the Letter Templates button. So that takes us to a window where I can select an existing template, in this case our physician letter example. And so if I look at the template for that letter that we just produced, you'll see here that we basically have kind of a layout of that body. And you'll notice in here that we have some text that is has square brackets around it. And if we go back and look at the letter that we produced, in this case if I click reprint, you notice that we have an audiologic evaluation for Anita Abbott, we have the date of birth, we have the physician name, etc., etc., as well as case history. So let's go back and look at the letter template, in this case for that physician letter. So you notice here that we have these texts where patient first name and patient last name. Basically, any of the text that's appearing in the square brackets is being replaced by actual data when we produce that letter. So the letter template is basically made of fixed text as well as dynamic text that is replaced as we produce the letter. So if I wanted to change this letter, I can go ahead and click the edit button. Now I can redefine what type of letter it is it a physician letter or not. I can change the label or the description. So if I wanted to remove example and maybe call it sample instead, for this exercise, I can go ahead and change that, make that change. And let's say maybe I wanted to just kind of change the language here. Because we have patient first name and last name, maybe I just want to remove the fact that we're referencing patient last name again. So maybe I just want to say I had the opportunity to examine the hearing test results on your patient Anita from that such and such test date. So whatever changes you want to make, you can go ahead and do so. Maybe I want to say instead of respectfully, maybe I want to say sincerely, or best regards. Whatever. So I can make changes to the template. Let's say that I wanted to include maybe the I don't know, some other information here in the letter. Let's say I'll just add a couple spaces here, and let's say I wanted to add patient address maybe, or I don't know, there's basically this drop down list of merge fields gives you a listing of all the different predefined keywords enclosed by square brackets that we can incorporate into our letter. So let's say maybe we maybe as an example we wanted to include the right aid serial number. So I'm going to take that merge field information and incorporate that in here. It's just a rough example. So let's say an aid serial number. Not that the physician would necessarily be interested in that, but just to kind of show you the power of what's available within these templates. I've modified the physician letter template such that I remove the patient last name from that opening sentence, and I'm adding aid serial number as information in the template. So let me just change this again and say right aid serial number. So I'm going to go ahead and save the template as I've done here, and then close the window. And now let's say that I wanted to reproduce a letter for this patient. So I'm going to go ahead and reselect that physician letter sample, and incorporates that the latest hearing results. And now what you'll notice is that my sentence now opens with, I had the opportunity to review, meet with your patient Anita, and I have that patient's the serial number for the right aid incorporated into that letter. So perhaps a bad example, but just an example of modifying a letter template. Additionally, you can create a new template if you so choose. I can just go ahead and click the new button. What type is it? Is it a physician letter or not? In this case, I'll just go ahead and say it's not. And this is just a sample letter, that I might want to produce. Sample letter as an example. Bad name, but just another variation. Let's say I want to send this to maybe the patient. So I'm going to say, dear, and I'm going to grab the patient first name, and I'm going to copy that and include that, and then some text that will serve as an example of the body of letter. Just type that up here, and then end with sincerely, and then I'll just go ahead and click OK to save that letter. And let's return back out to the main information screen. And now appearing in my letter listing of templates is my sample letter as an example. I'm going to go ahead and select that letter. And now what's included is, you notice that Dear Anita has been added, some text that will serve as a letter, and the body. And now if I wanted to print and save that letter, what it's going to include, there's my message, and I didn't include my signature. Not a great example, but an example of how you can go ahead and manage your letter templates, either creating new templates or managing the templates that already exist. Also available here is the ability to generate an envelope for the patient. So you can just quickly and easily generate an envelope. Additionally, you can do so for a physician, and for some reason we're giving you the ability to suppress the clinic name and address. So if you don't want to print the clinic return address on there, you can just go ahead and say do not print, and then that appears. If I had selected print return address, then our clinic logo and address appears in that letter. So that's some of the capability that exists on the Form Letters tab. Hopefully you found that helpful. The next thing that we're going to talk about is on the Insurance Information tab. So I'm going to click on Insurance. And what you'll notice that's different about the Insurance tab is that it's actually made up of several sub-tabs. So when I went to Insurance, it's made up of an Insurance Info tab as well as Insurance Cards and CMS 1500 Insurance Billing, several sub-tabs under the Insurance tab. So let's talk about Insurance Info. This is simply the space in which you would go ahead and input the insurance information that corresponds to our patient, in this case Anita Abbott. So you can see we have several different sections, primary insurance, secondary insurance, or tertiary. It's just as simple as clicking on the search magnifying glass to select an insurance provider that has previously been defined. I'll go ahead and choose Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota from that list, and that drops in. I can enter in the ID number that corresponds to that patient, and then what type of plan it is, if applicable, and the policy group number, and I'll just make up whatever that would be. Relationship to insured, so it can be self, spouse, maybe it's a child or other. I'll just go ahead and choose self in this case. The AOB signature date can be input here, so let's say that the patient just signed that today. and any copay amount if applicable. Now, if you know it's another person that's carrying the insurance, we do also offer up a space in which you can input the primary insured's name and address, date of birth, etc. So if you want to capture that information, that can all be input here. If that primary insured's name and address is the same as the patient address, you can just simply click the patient address button and that information will drop in here. So if it's, I'll just say that it's maybe the spouse, John Abbott in this case, that's carrying the insurance, and then whatever that patient's date of birth is, and we'll say that that patient is male. So you kind of get the idea here. So I've gone through and input all of the insurance information for the primary insurance provider. Again, same exercise for secondary and tertiary insurance. Once you've got that insurance information set up into your liking, just go ahead and click the OK button to save it. And that's the insurance information. The next sub-tab under the insurance tab is insurance cards. What this allows you to do primarily is these fields here on the right hand side, and this would be these three fields serve as a way to upload any scanned images that you have made of the patient's insurance card. So let's say I had made a copy of the insurance card. So what I want to do in this case is get that scanned copy of the insurance card into the system. To do that, what I'm going to do is right mouse click on this primary insurance card field and choose Paste from File from the pop-up menu. Okay. Now I've got a little dialog that allows me to search my computer, or network, and so I'm going to go down and choose this insurance card that I had previously scanned. And now that insurance card has been brought into the patient record. I'm going to go ahead and save that information, and now I can double click on it, and that will open up a larger image of the scanned card. In this case, you can see that this isn't really for Anita Abbott, but it's another patient. But that just gives you an example of an image that has been previously created by scanning an insurance card. So you can do that for the primary, secondary, and tertiary insurance card. If you want, you can record the primary insured's name and information here. It's kind of redundant though, because we do have that information here on the insurance info, as you can see, as we previously saw. So, for primary, secondary, and tertiary, you can scan and upload any insurance cards. You can also select a card and then say print cards. If you want a printable copy of that card, you can go ahead and do so here. And if you wanted to delete a card, you can just, again, go ahead and select it and then click yes, and now that insurance card information would be deleted. So, very simply, right mouse click, Paste from File, navigate on your computer where that file is located, and save it to your patient record. Okay. The next tab I want to talk about is the CMS 1500 tab. And what you'll notice about this is essentially we have the main section here is primarily a space in which we can we have kind of a scanned image of the CMS 1500 claim form, where you can kind of input information that you would want to record on a claim form. So to begin here, you have a listing on the left hand side of any existing CMS 1500 claim forms that we had previously created. Now for Anita Abbott, we don't have any, so I want to initiate a new CMS 1500 claim form. So I'm going to go ahead and click New. I'm prompted to select whether I want to manually enter the CMS 1500 claim form or select or auto-create one from an existing superbill. I don't know if I have any superbill information for Anita Abbott. I'm going to go ahead and try. So I'm going to go ahead and say auto-create from an existing superbill. And then what happens is a pop-up list where I can select from from any existing super bills will appear. Now, as you'll see here, I don't have any super bills defined for this patient, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel. This would be a good example to just go ahead then and do a manually enter is CMS 1500 claim form. So I'm going to go ahead and say manually enter, click OK. Now I'm in a mode where I can select, which insurance provider am I going to submit this to. Bill primary insurance is selected, and so by default, with that selection, we're seeing Blue Cross of Blue Shield of Minnesota being populated at the very top. I can denote whether it's a Medicare, Medicaid, etc. For the patient. The patient name and address is populated automatically, including phone numbers. So in the different spaces within the CMS 1500 claim form, you can denote, just kind of click on checkboxes where applicable. And what we have are basically checkbox fields or drop-down fields laying over top of the scanned image of the 1500 claim form. So down in the physician information area, you can select a physician by clicking on the search button, and that will populate the claim form with that information. You can enter the date. In this case, I'm doing so as of July 9th of 2013. You can enter in, the codes and reference numbers as applicable. Down below, we get into the diagnoses codes that we might need to select. And so in that space where the diagnoses codes would appear, we have drop-downs containing a drop-down list of all the different diagnosis codes that have been defined. So from this list, we can go ahead and select the applicable diagnoses. You can do up to 4 different diagnosis codes on each claim form. So I'll just randomly select a few different values here. And then, so I've got up to 4 different diagnosis codes that can be selected. And then we get into the space where we can define, the procedures or CPT codes that were performed. And you can record the date in which it was performed, and the corresponding codes then can be selected. So let's say we did the cerumen removal, and that corresponds to our diagnosis number 1. The charges that we're going to apply, number of units, any reserved amount, modifiers, and you can just kind of scroll over. And so kind of an expansion of that section in which you would record your CPT codes or procedure codes. So again, another procedure, and I can just again select one of the procedures, and we'll say that's $105 that we're going to charge. So I just added a couple different procedures. Any modifiers that you need to select. You can denote which clinic the patient was seen at, which clinician it was, that clinician's or clinic's tax ID and the clinician's ID can drop in, again the date as applicable, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK to save that claim form. So we got our charges of $180. Now if we want to print out this claim form, we can do so by clicking the print button, and what that does is takes us to a screen where I don't have something completed. Let me go back in here and edit this. I'm missing something. Get the physician here. Okay, so alright, so I think I've got what I need now on my claim form, so I'm going to go ahead and save that again. I'm going to select that claim form from my list, and now I'm going to go ahead and click the print button, and here is a printable version of that CMS 1500 claim form. Now the idea here is that you can print this out on the pre-printed claim forms that you would have in stock, and those would be loaded into the printer. And so now I can just send this out to the printer by clicking the print button. And again, I'll just send that, in my case, to a PDF writer. And so I'm going to get a little prompt here and just choose that test. And so now I have sent that to the printer. So that is how you can print out your claim forms. Now, one thing about printing is that every printer seems to draw paper from the trays a little bit differently, and ever so slightly might have different margins. Because these claim forms need to be printed quite precisely in terms of alignment, we do give you the ability to tweak the margins a little bit by inputting, adjusting a top or left margin. So if you have printed out, by clicking the print button, if you print it out and the alignment is not right, and maybe you need to shift the text down maybe by a fraction of an inch, you can adjust the top margin by a little bit. You can also adjust the left margin, so if we wanted to make it maybe as 1.5 inches from the left and bring it down 0.1 inches from the top, you can enter in these printing adjustments and then reprint, and then you'll see how the text shifts just a little bit. So through a little bit of trial and error, you should be able to get your alignment of these claim forms just right so that you can print precisely on those claim forms. We do know of reports of claim forms being rejected because the text is difficult to see because they didn't print precisely in the right squares or sections of the claim form. So that's the ability to print the CMS 1500 claim forms. Now, additionally, once you have a claim form that you've created, you notice there's a button here to create an invoice, and that would allow you to create a patient invoice from the charges that you've recorded on this claim form. So if you want to go ahead and create a patient invoice, you can just simply click that button, and that will go ahead and do so. So now if we go to the invoicing tab for our patient, we will see an invoice that was automatically created with the services and procedures that were performed with the amounts that we defined on our claim form. Okay, so I'm going to go back into the insurance, go to the CMS 1500 claim, CMS 1500 tab. And one other thing that I want to show you here is the ability to file these claim forms electronically. So if I click the File Electronically button, that takes me to a window where I have an opportunity to review and submit claim forms for many patients. So I have search options where I want to search for all of them, maybe just those that haven't been filed. Maybe I want to narrow it down to those of a certain patient. So if I enter in patient name of Abbott and then click create the list, we have that one claim form for Anita Abbott. If I remove that patient name, click the list, now I'm getting a listing of all of the claim forms that have previously been created, and you'll see that they correspond to many different patients. And so you have just a variety of options. Give me those that have already been filed, which in this case, because I have the radio button of not filed selected, those dates wouldn't necessarily pertain, but I could also limit this to just give me those that were created in July. And so now I've just got a couple, and now I can pick and choose from that list by selecting an item and using the Control key or the Shift key. I'll get a bigger list here. So if I click the first item in the list and then hit the Shift key and go down a little further and select another item, when I hold the Shift key down, I'm getting all of the invoices between the first one and the next one that I select. If I click one and then hit the Control key and select another one or several, now I've got several hidden, but I'm kind of picking and choosing which ones I want to include or exclude. So now I've got 4 different claim forms highlighted. Now, depending on which ones you have highlighted, if I click the File Electronically button, what's going to happen is the system is going to export that data corresponding to each of these claim forms and dump it into a data file that I could, and here I'm getting a prompt to select which data file I want to put these claim forms into. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one that I'd previously created. But here, now that that file opens up, and what it contains is all of the claim forms for all of the patient records, or all of those 1,500 claim form records that had been created. So I've got 4 different claims now included in this file. This file then could be uploaded to your electronic clearinghouse via their website, or by whatever means they accept electronic submissions. So the file format is laid out to accommodate most clearinghouses. If you have any troubles with it, please let us know, and we could adjust the creation of the file accordingly. But that's the way in which you can file your claims electronically. And so that is the CMS 1500 tab. The insurance billing tab is really not applicable to most people. I'm not going to cover that in this training session. And that really completes everything that I wanted to talk about thus far within the patient management suite. So the last topic that I want to cover in this training session is that of the marketing export. And we'll find that out on main under a grouping called marketing, and I'm going to click on this link called marketing exports. Marketing exports is really provides the ability to generate a listing of patients, and we have criteria available depending upon different types of mailings that you might want to do. So one of our predefined types of mailings is a newsletter, where maybe you'd want to periodically, maybe on a quarterly basis, generate a newsletter or submit a newsletter to all of the patients that are active and have hearing aids or had an appointment within the last 18 months. That's our default criteria for this newsletter. Okay. You can pick and choose. Maybe you want to narrow it down to only patients of a certain clinic, or maybe you want to include all patients. You kind of have the ability to kind of pick and choose, and these are the selection options that would pertain to this mailing type. So if I click the retrieve button, what I'm going to get is a listing of all the patients that meet that criteria, that are active patients, have AIDS, and have had an appointment within the last 18 months. May want to expand that out and give me all patients that had an appointment within the last 24 months. Okay, so you notice that my count went up from 141 to 142. So this gives you the ability to generate a listing of patients. Once you have that list generated, you can print it out, and you can basically print out address labels. Or additionally, you can export the list, and so you can let's call this newsletter list, and I'm going to dump that out into a data file, and the system is going to export that data, and then it's going to open up that data file into a spreadsheet, which you can see here contains a listing of patient first name, last name, the patient address. As I scroll over here, we've got the patient's city, state, zip code, phone numbers. We also include the patient's date of birth, and also what the age will be on their next birthday. So if you wanted to do birthday cards to patients, and maybe you want to send special cards to those reaching certain milestones, you'd have the ability to do so. So that's some of the information that's available when you export the list. I'm not going to save those changes, but you have the ability to, through these different types of mailings and through the criteria that's available, kind of generate listings of patients. So other examples include tested not sold. So when I select that item, you have the opportunity to specify, give me a listing of all patients that were tested and not sold between the first of the month and we'll say today's date. And I'll click retrieve, and we have 2 patients that were tested not sold in the last week or so. So if I wanted to generate a letter, send a letter to those people, again, I could print out address labels for those who were tested and not sold. Give me a listing of all patients that were, based on when they were last tested. Give me a listing of patients who have, warranties expiring on their hearing aids. Maybe it's the original warranty, maybe it's the loss and damage, and maybe it's an extended warranty. What have you? You kind of have some various options. So give me all those where the warranty is expiring between now and, let's say, the end of August. We'll click retrieve, and here we have a listing of just a handful of patients whose warranties are expiring. Maybe you want to do a mailing to patients whose hearing aids are 3 years or older. So here's the ability to generate that list. Birthday cards, maybe I want to do birthday cards to all my patients having July birthdays and get that list. Hearing loss, we'll give you a drop-down list of our hearing loss types, and you can choose one item from the list. Or you'll notice that next to some of the drop-downs, there's a little button here that opens up a little pop-up where you can pick and choose multiples. So maybe I want all of those who have moderately severe hearing loss. Or just kind of by clicking on the corresponding items, you can build up a list. So give me all the patients who have some level of moderate loss. Then go ahead and click close, and then click retrieve. And now I've got 36 patients that are showing up in this listing who have some level of moderate hearing loss. Okay, so that's kind of some of the ability that corresponds to some of the drop downs, with the ability to pick and choose multiple values. Okay. Additionally, if you want to do custom mailings, you can click on the custom box, and so that gives you the ability to generate based on referral sources or your custom patient codes. This would also give you an opportunity to do so based on when the patient's last appointment was. But really, for any of these different types of mailings, you'll notice that there's a More Options link available here. And when I click on that, it really gives me a full array of the different selection options that are available to me. Hearing loss, again, whether or not the patient is suffering from tinnitus, are they Medicaid patients? Have the patients gone into collections, and within which time period did they go into collections? So if you wanted to send out collections letters, you can kind of track those. This is kind of the full array of options that are available to you, including those custom fields that you can define in the patient information tab, where you can define the labels. And so when clicking on a drop down here, you get kind of a listing of the different values that have been used within these custom fields. So this is available here to you. But really what it basically consists of is the ability to generate a listing of patients and to do some sort of mailings to them, either by printing envelopes, exporting the list, and then doing mail merges either with Word or generating your own types of letters or envelopes, whatever the case may be. Now there's one type of mailing that I kind of skipped over, and that is the ability to generate a listing of patients based on some scheduled events. So we've talked about events earlier in this training session, and maybe for those who have periodic wax removal appointments, maybe you want to generate a listing of all patients that are due for wax removal. Maybe here in the month of July. Let's kind of do this for from the beginning of the month. So give me a listing of all patients who have a 3-month wax removal scheduled here in July. So I'm going to click retrieve. That's bringing back 2 patients. So maybe instead of calling patients for what, the periodic or the recurring events that you have defined, maybe you want to send out postcards or letters or something along those lines. So you can use this as a way to generate those mailing labels or to print out letters. Now, once you have perhaps completed an event where, in this case, the 3-month wax removal, notice there's a button here that allows me the opportunity to complete the event. So I'm going to go ahead and click that button. That opens up a little dialog that gives me the opportunity to explain, what happened. So for all of the patients that were appearing in my result list, we are going to create an event that says that we have completed it. Actually, I'm not creating an event. I'm completing these events. So let's say that postcards were sent to for appointment reminders. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK to that, and it's happening as of this date and by this user. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK to that. Are you sure that you want to complete the scheduled events? Yes, I'm sure. And what the system is going to do is it's going to complete those events, and it's also going to schedule the next round of events for these 2 patients in this case. So if we were to go look at the patient record for Ann Lee or Kari Lee, let's look for Ann Lee and go to her events tab. So our wax removal, you notice here that on July 9th this one was completed. It includes our note that postcards were sent, but not only that, but the next reminder to contact the patient 3 months later has also been set up. So that now we've got another scheduled event for October 9th, where we will again receive a reminder for all those patients due for a reminder sometime down the road. Okay, so the through the marketing exports, you have the ability to generate a listing of patients that have scheduled events as well. For maybe let's take the birthday as an example. We've got 6 patients that have July birthdays. We also have an opportunity to create events. So when you're generating a mailing based on scheduled events, and you generate that list, and you do need to select the type of event to generate that list, then you have the opportunity to complete scheduled events. When you do a mailing that's of a type like a birthday cards, then you have an opportunity to create an event. So let's say I sent out birthday cards to these 6 patients. So I'm going to go ahead and create an event that says that we sent out a letter, or maybe it's a mailing, or maybe birthday card. I'll call it a letter in this case. So this is a birthday card is kind of the event reason, and birthday card sent out as my note for that type of event. So that was completed as of the 9th, and I'm going to go ahead and click the OK button. And now what the system is going to automatically do is in each of these 6 patient records, it's going to create a completed event that lets us know that we created that we sent out birthday cards. So again, the events dialog, or the events tab, let's go into Lauren Hagen, who is one of those. Let's bring up Lauren Hagen and go to the events tab. So here in our patient events now, you'll see that this completed event includes that birthday card. So in each of those 6 patient records that had a July birthday, we created a completed event, just capturing the fact that we sent out this birthday card. So that's kind of what the marketing exports is about, and what the button to create or complete events is all about. And I think I've covered everything I wanted to regarding the marketing export. And I think that completes training session number 3. So I hope you found this valuable. I hope it was informative. And I wish you the best of luck as you learn more about Prism Connect and begin using it more extensively. So I'll sign out for now. Again, thank you for watching. And that's it.